if someone said, oh, I made this amazing cocktail with strawberries and a little bit of vodka and my mom made the special recipe, okay, maybe I would try it. I could have a desire to try it or not try it, but I don't have a clench. It's the clench. It's tracking. Am I holding something loosely? How would you hold a baby bird with a broken wing if you found it on the street? The way you would hold a baby bird with a broken wing, that gentle, I'm holding it, but I'm not clenching it. That's the way you have to hold a desire. Anytime you have this, he must text me, she must call me back, I have to find a cigarette, then you're not holding the baby bird.
All right, here we are. I'm here with Annie Lalla. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to yet another episode of I Love Being Sober, brought to you by Camelback Recovery, a proud partner to the most effective way to achieve long-term recovery. My name is Tim Westbrook, and I'm the CEO and founder of Camelback Recovery, here in the always sunny and always sober Scottsdale, Arizona, where my team and I, over the course of many years, have helped thousands of people on their path to recovery. We started this show because there's so much misinformation about addiction treatment, mental illness, and recovery in general. There's so much more to recovery than just going to inpatient treatment, seeing a therapist, and going to 12-step meetings. All those things are important, and AA saved my life. However, to find long-term recovery and live happy, joyous, and free, there's a lot more to it than just stopping the drinking, stopping the drugs, stopping the sex addiction, or stopping any addictive behavior for that matter. Sobriety and recovery can and should be fun. And that's not to say that the recovery process is going to be easy, and it's not to say that there won't be difficult times ahead. However, to live the life that you deserve and for it to be exciting and fun, you will need to change a few things about the way you live your life. And when I say a few things, I kind of mean everything. And this includes new healthy lifestyle habits that promote your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. That, my friends, will lead you to living a kick-ass sober life. Visit camelbackrecovery.com to learn more about treatment, recovery coaching, sober living, and your next step to freedom and happiness. Our guest today holds an honors science degree in biology and philosophy with a minor in Buddhism, and her studies include evolutionary psychology, integral theory, spiral dynamics, intergenerational family systems, and therapeutic sexuology. With professional certifications in emotions coaching, NLP, and clinical hypnosis, her tools extend to metaphoric reframes, role play, and interacting with clients as their highest selves. In her coaching, she helps individuals attract, create, and foster extraordinary connections that maximize freedom and minimize shame. Today, we are going to talk about relationships and finding love for the person in recovery from alcoholism, drug addiction, and any other addiction. Annie Lalla, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thanks, Tim. Excited to be here. I'm willing to answer any question you ask. So bring it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I guess first we'll start with how and why did you become a love coach? Like, where did it start?
You know, I was ever since I was in the school ground, 7, 8 years old, all the way up through high school, I was the one everyone came to when they had a drama. Between girls, guys and boys, everyone. I remember friends calling me from New Zealand and Switzerland in the middle of the night to help them resolve drama. This is while I was an IT consultant, which is what I did for about 15 years in Europe. I worked for phone companies. I was an IT consultant. And you're like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, I was making good money. And I studied biology and science. So it gave me sort of a systematic kind of mind to think of systems. And I was applying it to software. But when I worked in IT, I was basically always mediating between the business development and like the marketing people and then the developers, which was kind of like mediating between a warring husband and a wife. So what I realized is I'm not into IT. I eventually left that and moved to New York and started doing what I really love doing, which is helping people believe in love and learn the skills, the maps, the models that allow them to create a relationship that lasts a lifetime. And the reason why I did well in IT is because I was basically relationship coaching all the people that I was working in projects with, and they would just let my projects go through faster. So
isn't that kind of everything in life?
Yeah.
Relationships, right?
It is. And that's why I've taken my particular brand of genius and targeted. My way of supporting reality and the species is to help people who are in relationship, couples in love, but relationships with family, with children. They're all the same. They all have the same rules that they're governed by. And that's the place where I intervene and bring my particular knowledge to help equip individuals with frames and models that they can have more empowered relationships, and relationships where they're transparent about what's actually going on inside rather than hiding behind all these defenses and protective mechanisms. And you know a lot about that in this work. People are hiding behind a lot of things, and learning how to cope with what it feels like when you don't have a crutch, when you don't have something you use to escape. Escape what? Escape the feelings. And a lot of people in relationships, the reason they have issues and problems is because they do habits and behaviors that their partners get frustrated with, their friends get frustrated, because they're using those habits and behaviors to avoid feeling their feelings. And until you feel your own feelings, you're not fully alive. And so this is what we're up to. Being fully alive.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. We're gonna talk about we're not there yet, but we're gonna talk about relationships for the person early on in recovery,
Okay.
because during that recovery process, it's and I mean, for anybody, a way to avoid feelings is to seek love or find another relationship without actually dealing with the issues that they need to deal with.
Mhm.
And that leads to sex addiction, love addiction. And so we'll get to that. But
Okay.
first, so let's talk about how and why you're an expert. So what gives you the right to claim you're an expert on relationships and finding love?
I just got my 10,000, 20,000 hours in. I've just been literally mapping this with high profile evolutionary couples and singles. I help singles who are done with dating and ready to find their soulmate, and also couples who are in love but have recurrent conflict and they just don't know. It's every fight it's the same shape and it keeps coming. So I help them do a pattern interrupt for those trances they get into. And in terms of what equips me, I understand what's going on in the middle of a drama, in the middle of a breakdown, in the middle of a despair or a depression, better than a lot of people. So that's where I want to help. Understanding the needs of my client is really what equips me. I have a degree in philosophy and biology and Buddhism, and I could have gone into professional therapy, but I wanted to stay free to be able to use my ingenuity and intelligence to help people in any way they needed, rather than according to prescribed models. So I use whatever model is useful and what gets results.
Right. So I guess what specific incident? I know you kind of talked about how when you were younger, you were always the person that was mending relationships, and you were kind of the person.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what specific incident inspired you to take the leap and leave IT and go into relationship coaching?
There's a couple. I basically had a mounting sense of shame. Even though I was making really good money, living in Amsterdam and London, being a consultant, I had shame whenever I would meet an artist or someone who was doing their dharma. I would feel this twinge of shame, like, I know I'm making good money and I look official, but I'm not really enlivened by helping software be built for phone companies. I want to help human beings. I want to help their hearts feel more safe. I want to help their hearts know how to express their needs. And that shame kept mounting. And I was like, I'm not doing what I was here to do. And then I took the Landmark Forum,
Okay.
like a 3-day course that
Yep.
basically forces you to confront everywhere you're out of integrity in your life. And I was out of integrity with my soul and my dharma and my gift. And so at some point, maybe within 3 months after doing Landmark Forum, the shame and the inability to squint at, I'm literally prostituting myself. I'm doing this job because I make a lot of money and I get to be glamorous, but it's not what I'm here to do and it doesn't light me up. So that shame mounted up to a level where I was like, I couldn't pretend anymore. And so I quit IT. I moved to New York. I had a bunch of money saved to live off of. And I was like, I'm going to go where other people's dreams come true. I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to become a coach. And so that's what I did.
Okay. Just like that. And when was that?
Gosh, that would have been, I'm not good with dates, but that, let's see, I'm married 12 years. Before that, maybe 6 years, so maybe almost 18 years ago.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Man, when did you get started? When you were like 10?
No, I'm 50.
Wow. Okay. Now, and I've heard about you, and we just met recently at the Genius Network event in Scottsdale, Arizona, or in Paradise Valley, and so that was the first time I actually met you. But I've heard about you from many other people, including Joe Polish and Cameron Harold and a few others. So I know about your work, and I'm just grateful that I get to have you here, and I'm excited to talk about relationships and love as it relates to people in recovery from addiction, because that's my audience.
Yeah.
Do you have experience working with addicts?
Well, it's not my specialty. I think what you mean by addicts in a very specific way is people who use some external to them structure in order to regulate their nervous system. They don't use their own body and breath and technology, or they haven't learned how to do it yet. So they have to reach for a drink or a cigarette or some external way to get soothing, rather than learning how to generate safety in their own body, which is basically all I teach my clients in relationship.
Okay.
So I don't work with, specific addictions, but a lot of my clients have those propensities, maybe not at a clinical level. And it's the same tools. I'm teaching people how to be adults. My definition of an adult is not you have a car and a house and you pay mortgage. No, an adult is when you realize, finally, nobody's coming to rescue you. Not mommy, not your husband, not your wife. Nobody's coming to rescue you. And if you want to feel safe in your body and have a life that works, you have to take charge of that, and you have to go learn how to do that. And there are tools and there's technologies and there's models, and I've studied them. And that's what I teach my clients, how to take radical responsibility for their internal emotional state and to become good at creating and crafting designer states for themselves that allow them to fulfill on the dreams that they have. So that what I teach is, what I would teach someone who came to me with a propensity to lean on a crutch, something outside themselves, in order to soothe and feel safe and cope.
I think my question was kind of geared more towards people that are early on. Let's say, not that my question was geared more towards that, but people that are early on in recovery and they're emotionally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, they're not in the best place they've ever been in.
Yep.
And so is it different? I mean, is it different for working with that type of a person versus working with somebody that's already?
Totally. Oh, totally. So yeah, I don't have the frame. So you're obviously more knee deep in this world. So early recovery, I guess, means you've just come to terms with I have a dependency. You've proclaimed it to yourself and to the world, and you're now working to replace that crutch with something more scaffolding inside yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm powerless over alcohol. My life has become unmanageable. And
Okay.
so the powerlessness is over alcohol. And many times people, and I've seen this, people go to something else, whether it's, they stop drinking alcohol, but then they go to sex, they go to prostitutes, they go to drugs, they go to gambling, they go to Facebook, they go to workaholism, they go find a new boyfriend, they go find a new girlfriend, and it's distracting from them working through their issue.
Well, I want to, yes, I wouldn't say 100% is always the case. I would like to suggest that most of the time it probably is. But the way is if this thing you're going to, Facebook, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, the thing that you're going towards to get comfort, does it help you transcend this habit? Does it help you give power so that you can create your reality? And if not, you're just transferring whatever you were addicted to onto something else. It's just a roving thing to lean on. So I would definitely advise someone who's in early recovery to be very suspicious of anything that's pulling your attention away from your recovery. Okay. Anything that pulls your attention away from your recovery work is probably an escape from recovery in disguise, whether it's a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a job, a new club, whatever.
Right.
But if it helps you, if it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend that says, I'm going to come to the meetings with you, or I'm going to help support you, and you're noticing they're turning you more towards your work in recovery, then they're an ally. And so I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, just in case.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, the suggestion for someone new in recovery is to not date, not find a relationship for a year and to focus on recovery. And that's what I did. And that worked for me. I didn't date. I didn't like what I did was I focused on my recovery. And then finally, after about a year, I started dating and what I realized also, so I dated and then, I attracted the person, like I was at a certain place emotionally, spiritually, physically, and that was the type of person that I attracted. So as time,
let me pause on that. So I've noticed in relationships, you always attract someone who's at the level of self-esteem that you're at,
right,
in relationship. I've never, so you might be like running CEO of a fancy company and be high self-esteem in some area, but around relationships and romance, wherever your self-esteem is around relationships and romance, because self-esteem is domain specific. I might have high self-esteem around relationship coaching, but low self-esteem around fixing a car, which I do. And so it's domain specific. And so if someone's self-esteem around romance and relationships is hair, if a woman shows up who's hair, they won't be attracted to her. They'll find something wrong. You always find someone where you're at. So a lot of the work I do with clients, especially if they're single, is let's build your self-esteem. And what is self-esteem? The definition of self-esteem, 2 parts by Nathaniel Branden. First is believing in your ability to cope with what life brings you, to cope in your body. Mm-hmm. And second, believing that you deserve to be happy. So if you have either of those missing, you have low self-esteem in a relationship. And so I build my client's self-esteem in both those domains as they're single, so that when they find their partner, it's at the highest level of esteem that they could get to, to attract a higher caliber mate. So you'll get a higher caliber mate the longer you do your recovery work and get powerful, because then the partner you'll meet is powerful, not leaning on some other thing and having, being driven by their wounds.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can just, speaking to my own journey, I started dating and finally, when I was at 5 years, I was in a relationship and I was like, okay, I'm doing pretty good now. Mm-hmm. And so, and then now I'm in the best relationship I've ever been in. So it's like it continue as I'm continuing my work, as I'm continuing my personal development, I'm the quality that I'm attracting is much higher. And it's across the board in all of the relationships in my life, not just a romantic relationship. So when does a person know they're at a good place and they're like, okay, I'm in a good place now and I should start dating because I'm going to attract the right woman or the right man or whatever?
I'm just going to take a guess at this, so you can all support me, Tim, because you might have some other ideas. But I think so yes, you're sober. There's probably a certain period of time where you go, I feel powerful around my sobriety, not terrified. Am I going to be sober tomorrow or not? There's a place where you're just like, I can trust what I've built now. Mm-hmm. And I think once you feel powerful around your relationship to whatever it is that you're working through, when you feel powerful around it, then I think that's a good sign. The second I'd be looking for is when you're no longer leaning on that in your mind for support. You feel like you can, when you lean on a wall, you can feel the wall's holding you up. It just feels different. Sometimes we do it when we're waiting in line somewhere, but it's different when you're standing on your own 2 feet. There's just a different feeling. So you want to notice, are you leaning on anything? What I'm always trying to get my single clients to do is teach them how to stand on their own 2 feet, physically, but also emotionally, intellectually, financially, spiritually. The more you can stand on your own 2 feet, the more individuated and autonomous and sovereign you are, the more intimate you can get with someone else. It's counterintuitive that the more I-ish, separate and differentiated, like I am a person that can not control, but dance with and powerfully move through feelings and thoughts and experiences happening. Once you feel like you can stand on your own 2 feet emotionally, then you're more available to actually dance with another human. I think of it as like a twin star system, two fully formed stars that rotate around each other. Unlike most relationships, which are like two popsicle sticks leaning on each other, and when one falls,
Right.
the other one falls. And that's basically codependence. And so we're looking for a dancing star that can now co-create a twin star system with another person. But you have to feel not 100% whole, because we're never there, but like 75, 80% autonomous and sovereign, and not leaning on anything.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, and I'm just, again, I'm thinking about myself because I think about me, and I finally got to a place. I mean, whenever I hear somebody say, "Oh, I just want to be in a relationship. I just want a man. I just want a woman. I just want a girlfriend. I just don't want to sleep alone." Whenever I hear that, I cringe. I'm like, "Oh." I mean, to me, that says you got to figure out how to be happy on your own. You've got to figure out how to embrace. And that's what I've learned to do, is just to embrace being single. I'm happy by myself. And a relationship is going to make my life better. And I'm in a relationship right now, and I think it makes my life better, but I don't need it. And I don't think she needs me either.
Well, I think there's a pre and a trans version of need. But what I would say is, if there's a relationship, if you want someone to sleep with, there's someone you want to be with on the weekends or go on vacation, notice your desire. It's okay to have a desire. I would like to be in a relationship. But what you want to look for is a desire that has a death grip on it. Any kind of clenching, I want, it's like if someone wants a cigarette, right? There is a different quality to, I need a cigarette or a cup of coffee, to, yeah, I could have a cup of coffee if there's a cappuccino or not. When there's a neutral, non-clenchy energy, you can still have a desire. As soon as you have a clench or a death grip, or it has to be so, or secretly I need to have that, that's unsober behavior, right?
Yeah. So I understand. So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's I could be in a relationship or not. I could eat that chocolate bar or not. I could play a video game or not.
Mm-hmm.
I could watch that video game, or I could watch that movie or not. It's take it or leave it.
It's take it or leave it, but humans tend to never be completely neutral about anything. So we always slant towards one side or the other.
Okay.
And so it's okay to have a slant. Just notice. So I don't drink. Like, alcohol never worked for me. So I never got into drinking. But if someone said, "Oh, I made this amazing cocktail with strawberries and a little bit of vodka, and my mom made the special recipe," okay, maybe I would try it. I could have a desire to try it or not try it, but I don't have a clench. It's the clench. It's tracking. Am I holding something loosely? How would you hold a baby bird with a broken wing if you found it on the street? The way you would hold a baby bird with a broken wing, that gentle, I'm holding it, but I'm not clenching it. That's the way you have to hold a desire. Anytime you have this, he must text me, she must call me back, I have to find a cigarette, then you're not holding the baby bird. You're like squishing the baby bird.
When you're staring at your phone, hoping that they would text, hoping that they would call, that's not a good place to be in.
Yeah, you're clenched around an outcome, and the other person can feel it energetically, and they'll want to squeeze out of that death grip.
Should people be searching for a relationship, or should they just be living their life and doing the things they love to do? And a relationship maybe shows up or doesn't show up.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the best bird call to find your mate. The best bird call to find a relationship is to be doing your best life, is to be behaving and acting and talking and doing activities that are aligned with your purpose, with your dharma, with what lights you up. When you're standing in the world doing the thing that you love, the activities, the places, the experiences, the adventures, then what you exude is radiant possibility, and you're lit up from the inside. And that is the best bird call. You just make sure it's ideally, don't be doing it in your mom's basement, because no one can see you. So you have to actually be in a public space. But if you're in public spaces, talking and thinking and speaking and sharing about or doing what you do best, that is your bird call. And the right person will go, there she is. There he is. And that's how I met my husband. He was literally doing a talk at Burning Man, talk about what he teaches. And I was like, that's the bird call. And I recognized
That's the
him.
guy. Okay.
Yeah. But you have to be out there doing and speaking and talking and acting in ways that are aligned with your soul, with your dharma, with your purpose. So a lot of the work I do with clients is helping them get into their dharmic purpose or their soul's call so that they can get the bird call. Like going on Tinder or Bumble and with a good bio, I help people do that too, for sure. I mean, I'm
Right.
very good at writing bios, but no bio is going to help you attract your soulmate if what you're actually exuding isn't your essence, some amount of your essence, because how else can your soulmate recognize you? And if you're still in early recovery, you're just trying to survive. You haven't even gotten to my essence and let me channel my purpose and my wheelhouse and my superpowers. So you want to get to the place where you're healed enough and you're not in survival, but you're now like, okay, I've handled my lower Maslow sense of safety and belonging. Now, what do I want to do with this one precious life, with my creativity, with my imagination? And there is something that you're better equipped to do than anyone else. And finding that is what's going to light you up. And that's what's going to call in the right partner.
So speaking to online dating, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, those dating apps, I know that you've helped people write bios. My experience, I haven't been on a dating app for years and years and years, like a long, long time, because I would rather live my life and do the things I love to do and live my purpose. And I'm going to meet the people that I want to meet, because to your point, a profile on Hinge or Bumble or one of those apps is not really going to paint the picture of who you are.
Well, I don't want to throw the apps out because we're in a new technological stage.
No, true. Hey, true. And hey, I know a lot of people that have met their match on
here's what I would say.
Dating. So
here's what I would say about that. So I was single before I went to Burning Man the year I met my husband. And I didn't want to it was Match.com back in those days. And my friend came over and he was like, you're writing a Match.com bio today. I'm not leaving. So we sat there, we wrote it out, I put it up. I ain't never looked at it again. I went to Burning Man the next week. But the next week, I met my partner. Now, it took several months before he even recognized me. But I think putting out a profile on at least one dating app is a form of saying to all your parts, all your selves, and the universe, I'm ready. I'm inviting, taking an action. Even if you never look at it. I didn't even look at the Match.com bio, but I think that action of crystallizing, what do I want to say here? What do I want to attract? The whole process of saying, yes, I'm available for a date. I'm available for a relationship in an action, not just in your mind, in an action. Does something to reorganize your nervous system and call it in at a magical level. I met him in the real world, not on Match, but I don't think I would have met him if I hadn't have done the energetic shift.
Maybe going through that process, putting it all on paper, figuring out what you're really looking for, figuring out who you really are. And I mean, hey, I've got nothing against dating apps. For me, they didn't work, and I was able to figure things out without the dating apps.
Yeah.
So, okay. Here, my next question. In your opinion, where should finding a relationship be on the priority list? And the second part is it different for a man or a woman, or is it different for the masculine and the feminine, like the priority list? So many people say men should be living their purpose and women maybe or masculine anyways, masculine versus feminine. What's your opinion on that?
Well, even the phrase find a relationship, it doesn't resonate for me.
Okay.
So what I was doing and what I encourage my clients to do is to proactively create a life that they love being in. What activity, what people, what circumstances, what events, what experiences. Create a life that you love so that when you meet someone, they want to join it. Because if you're in a life that doesn't look that fun for you, ain't nobody going to want to join it. So create a life that you love being in, because there's two wins from that. First of all, you're having a ball while you're single. And then when a partner meets you, you already love your life. You're not trying to escape it. Please save me from my miserable life. Who wants to do that? So that's the first benefit. You actually start loving your life. Why isn't that worth it on its own? And secondly, when a partner finds you, it has to look like you're a train that's leaving the station. You're busy walking to your Pilates class. You're going to your hip hop dance. You're going on a trip to Costa Rica. You're doing things. And they go, that's very attractive. Nobody wants to board a train that's been sitting at the station for a week with cobwebs growing. Nobody wants to get on that train. They want the train that's going with the party on it.
Yeah,
and so you got to create your life into the experience that you love being in, because then when you see someone who could be a partner, you don't latch onto them with that death grip that basically spooks them, because you're not trying to escape anything. Your life isn't frustrating and miserable in a prison. Your life is amazing. And how to make a life that's amazing is a very fine art and science, which I try to teach.
Yeah.
It's basically becoming a researcher and an investigator about what things daily light you up, expand you, and what contracts you. Everything from what tea you choose, what food, how much you sleep, what people, what books, what parties you say yes to. If you start noticing what expands you and what contracts you at a body level, and only choose the things that expand you, your life just gets better and better. But we tend not to use our body. We tend to go into habits and just do what our parents did or our friends did. We don't actually ask our body, hey, does my body expand when I eat this lunch, or does it contract? And that is a really important tool, to start using your intuitive body wisdom as an indicator of what is aligned with your aliveness and what is not. Because everything you do is either helping you feel more alive or deadening you. And you got to track that.
That's in line with what Derek Sivers says. Hell yes or no.
Yeah.
Right? It's a hell yes. And if it's a hell yes, then let's take it to the, let's keep it going. If it's not a hell yes, then there's no reason to continue.
Well, there is. And this is why people do it.
Okay.
If you come from a family who are not feeling like they deserve or they're worthy of hell yeses, or what a hell yes gives you, then you learn to say, that's enough. I'll tolerate that. This is good enough for me because it was good enough for my family and their family. So there's lots of, and sometimes we do things out of habit so that we can stay connected to and feeling belonging with our family of origin. Because we never want to lose connection with our original tribe, which is our family of origin. And if our parents never had a really fun, amazing life, maybe some of them got into you saying, well, why should you have a fun, amazing life? You should just be happy with enough. And so you tolerate, okay, yes, that aren't fuck yeses. And this is why we have these habits, is because we have programming, historic programming that is not native to the moment and to us, that is micromanaging and controlling our behaviors in a way that's not born of the moment and it's not native to you. And so learning to let go of that programming and find what does the soul inside you right now. Like if you ask any kid, do you want to go on the swing or not? Do you want to eat this or not? They're very clear. They don't go,
right.
Do I deserve it? Am I worthy?
Right.
They are worthy of everything. And so at some point we forget that we're the most magnificent thing we've ever known. And we stop acting like we deserve joy and happiness, not just in the moment, because that can sometimes get us into trouble, right? Which is why we got into the addiction to begin with. I want to distinguish between pleasure, authentic, true, congruent pleasure, and counterfeit pleasure. Counterfeit pleasure, like, it feels great to take a line of cocaine. I mean, it feels great to just down a thing of ice cream in the moment. But if you think of yourself on a timeline, okay, so here's Tim now in the present moment, and then there's Tim an hour from now in the timeline, Tim a day from now, a week from now, a month from now, a year, 5 years, 10 years. Just see a timeline into the future with all these Tims. And then when you're about to eat the ice cream or take the line of cocaine or whatever the pattern is, what you want to do is ask all those future Tims on the timeline, hey, what do you guys think of this? And imagine them turning over their shoulder and either thumbs upping, like, we love that you're doing this, or thumbs downing. So counterfeit pleasure, you might get 5 minutes from now, Tim, saying, yeah, it's going to be great. But like an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, once you look at all those Tims, they're all going, and, and I'm not saying one line of cocaine is a problem, but like if it's the 100th line for the week, basically,
the first line for someone like me, and for most people listening to the show, the first line is the problem.
Exactly. Well, so the question to ask, though, what I'm trying to distinguish is real pleasure
But
versus counterfeit pleasure. And the difference is counterfeit pleasure always has shame. If someone's holding a kale shake that's all yummy and made for them, there's no future version of them on the timeline going, don't drink it.
yeah,
There's no future part saying, don't go to the gym, don't go to yoga. They're always saying, yeah, we would love it. So you got to check in with your future selves to see if they're thumbs up or they're thumbs down. And when it's a genuine pleasure and healthy pleasure, congruent, all your future selves are in line. When it's not, there's some of them going, nah.
I've never heard it that way before, and I love it. And it's the same as playing the tape forward. And I think it's a better description, actually. Look at yourself. Okay, Tim, in 5 minutes, an hour, 2 days, 5 days, 6 months, is Tim still saying hell yeah? Or is Tim saying, don't do it? I love it.
Exactly. And so you crowdsource what's right for you by tuning into all your future successful selves. So you're literally communing with your future successful selves going, is this aligned with our success or not? And they're going to tell you.
I think you were talking about your family of origin and how you were raised. It's like we're all programmed to live life a certain way. And the path of least resistance is to go back to what we're comfortable with, to go back with what we know. And 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. So our subconscious mind is constantly running the show. Totally. So it's really hard to change our behavior and to get into new healthy relationships if we're not used to healthy relationships and if we didn't grow up around healthy relationships.
Yeah. And the subconscious mind, I think of it, it's the one driving the steering wheel of our life.
Yeah.
And it's hard to change your subconscious consciously because most of you is subconscious. So the trick is to continuously emancipate what is subconscious into the conscious mind, right? If someone's a gambler, then telling them, hey, you should stop gambling when they've already got money from the ATM and they've driven to the gambling house and they're at the table. That's not the moment to go, hey, stop. It's when they're getting the keys to go out to the car to get to the ATM. It's way further upstream when you still have choice. And so bringing consciousness to the causal chain of events before that alcohol's in your hand or the cigarettes in your hand or you're at the gambling table, it's chasing it upstream to the point where you still have choice. And that requires you bringing more and more consciousness. Oh, I'm getting the keys to go to the car to go to the ATM so I can go to the gambling house. But we don't tell ourselves that. We go, I'm just going to go get a Coca-Cola from the store down the street. We fool ourselves. And so you have to learn how to get more conscious of your own delusions so that you can have more choice upstream in doing what's actually commensurate with all your future successful selves.
Right. You know, I was just thinking of something as you were talking. Okay, so we're talking about playing the tape forward, right? And many times, if you're thinking about the past, then you're in regret, and if you think about the future, you're full of fear. But then, in a situation where you're potentially going to take a drink or do a drug or go to the ATM and pull out a bunch of money, we're kind of in the present. We're just thinking about the right now. We're not really thinking about the future, which in that case, you really kind of do want to think about the future.
Well, I'm saying, like, I don't really believe in time anyway. I think the past, the future, and the present is all one big thing. Just like China exists right now. We're not in China right now, you and me, but it's there. And I believe it's there, even though I'm not in it. I see the future similarly. It's here right now, coiled up in the present moment, and it unfurls. So in some way, when I say crowdsource your decisions across all your future successful and your past successful selves, I'm trying to pull you out of time to encompass a wider parameter. Because if you include, what would my future self think of this? And let's even go further. What would myself on my deathbed, if I could interview myself on my deathbed about what I should do right now as I pick up the ATM card, what would it tell me? It's a very useful tool to interview your on the moment of death self and say, what would you tell me to do right now? Because we're always optimizing for that moment of death. Do we have lament and regret, or were we triumphant in our life? Did we live according to our values, or did we betray ourselves? And that governs how triumphant we are when we die. So I'd like to use my last moment of life to run as a heuristic to check current behaviors to see if they're right for me.
Okay. So switching gears. So question for people that they're newly dating, they're in relationships. What should the first couple of dates look like? What is the beginning of a relationship look like? Should the masculine be pursuing? Should the feminine be pursuing? Like, who should be calling who? Who should be setting up the dates? And what should the first couple of dates look like?
So that question, I understand, it comes, and it's a very understandable question, but it's kind of, it occurs to me as someone who's just mapped this terrain so microscopically, it occurs to me like an artist saying, someone asking an artist, how do I paint a painting? Do I pick up a brush and poke it in the red paint, or do I use a marker, or should I be a sculptor? Like, it's so vast. And I think reducing the complexity of doing the mating dance to a set of rules is just, it's naive. It's like someone saying, how do I have a conversation?
Yeah.
It's as complex as there are two different people having different ways of relating. So what I would say instead is there's two kinds of dating. There's short-term dating and long-term dating. There's two genres. One is, I'm in Costa Rica for a week and there's a cute guy on the beach and I would like to be with them. Or there's a cute girl. So there's short-term, I just want to connect and have companionship and have a sexual connection, but I'm not trying to build a long-term sustained relationship. And nothing's wrong with that, right? Sometimes we're in the middle of Times Square and we just need food and we grab the pizza on the corner, and it is not couture vegan food that you might get in Brooklyn at an artisan restaurant. Those are two different clienteles, right? The pizza place in Times Square is used to tourists with one-hit wonders, and they have a particular quality that they'll use versus the nice artisan pizzeria in Brooklyn that has long-term patrons that they want to serve. So there's two ways to approach it, and neither is one's bad or good, but just know what you're getting into. And so if you're in the short-term dating game, you can play these rules that are in the game, or the rules, the rules. You can play those, but they don't produce nourishing, fulfilling, long-term, exciting relationships. They're for a game to get laid. And I don't map that. And I don't help people do that. I'm ready. You come to me when you're ready to find your soulmate or you're with your partner and you want to make it extraordinary. So I only work in long-term dating. So if you're talking about that, then what I would say to someone is, how you start dating is you literally create opportunities where you get to be yourself and you get to learn about someone else's self. So most of my early dates would be, I don't care the context. I don't care if we're on a park bench or in a fancy restaurant. All of that is backdrop. I just want to be in a situation where I can understand who you are and how you think. What are your values? What's important to you? What makes you cry? What lights you up? What are your dreams? Like, I want to understand what is the orienting principle that your life is dedicated to. And I want to express that, because then I can figure out quickly, are we going to be friends? Are we going to be collaborators for work? Are we going to be romantic partners? I always assume that something good can come of it, but I just don't know what category it's going in. But I'm always trying to fall in love with the person that I'm dating. Not forever, but in the moment. I just want to see what's magical about them. So I go, well, what's magical about this person? And I might not even want to go on another date, but I want to make sure when I leave that date, that person feels better about themselves rather than worse. So I left them better than I found them, so that they had a great experience. They learned something. They felt, people don't fall in love with another person. They fall in love with how they feel about themselves when they're around that person. So I just want to make sure when I'm on a date that the other person's having an experience of loving who they are and their own life. And I'm a reflection for that. That lights me up. And they'll automatically like you if you help be that kind of mirror. So to me, a great first date is asking exploratory questions that help the other person feel more at home, and that allows you to display the things about yourself that you're delighted about or proud of. Like, you have to have a commercial of who you are to yourself in your own mind. If you want to fall in love with the most extraordinary person you've ever met, which is what you're supposed to do, never settle and never marry anyone that isn't the most extraordinary person you've ever met, hands down. So that's first rule. So if you want to have that person fall in love with you, you have to feel like you're extraordinary. So you have to start the work of building yourself into a version that you are proud of. And that's what I do with my single clients, is help them fall in love with themselves so that they're proud to offer this when they find someone amazing. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I don't think there's one person to pursue. My husband was one of the world's most famous dating coaches. Okay. David D'Angelo, Double Your Dating. He was, he opened the genre. And you would think he would be the one that pursued me with all his technology. No, I had to dog his ass. I literally had to take him down. So, and I was fine with that. I've never had to pursue a man in my whole life, actually. But I remember a teacher, one of my landmark teachers, actually telling me, listen, Annie, if you ever see a man that you want, that you think he's right for you, you go after him. And I kept that in the back of my mind for years. I never used it. But then when I met my husband, I was like, there he is. And he
That's the one.
He didn't recognize me. It took him 4 months to even realize I was the one. But I was like, you're it. And then I systematically, lovingly didn't go after him. What I did is I gave him the experience around me that allowed him to feel like his life was going to get to the next level. And I actually knew how to help his life get to the next level.
Yeah, and you did answer my question. And the way, what I took from your answer was create opportunities for me to be the best version of myself, for us to have fun. And that's it. And the other thing I've heard, and I've heard you say this before, is we don't fall, I'm not going to fall in love with the other person. I'm going to fall in love with who I get to be when I'm around that person.
Yeah. And so instead of showing off on a date, here's my credentials, look how smart and rich and amazing I am. You want to help the other person feel smart and rich and amazing. You want to help them feel they just love being around you. And I don't want you to fake it. You have to be authentic about it. But if you're not doing that, then why should that person hang around with you? Because the person we end up with or fall in love with is the portal with which we move through to actualize to our highest potential. You fall in love with the portal to your greatness. And so if you're not a portal to someone else's greatness, why would they pick you? Just because you're shiny and pretty isn't enough to build a life with. Love is a crucible for personal development and self-actualization. And if you're not a trampoline for the other person's dreams and a sanctuary for their heart, then you're not the right person for them.
Right. And the other thing I heard you say is, and I've heard this before too, is every single relationship is my opportunity to make a contribution. And
every single interaction, actually.
Every single interaction. And what was the other thing that I heard you say? Oh, I also heard you say that every single relationship is either the one or practice for the one, which is the same thing. Every single interaction is the one or practice for the one.
Yeah, I tell my single clients, if you're dating, even if you're not into the person across from you at the table, imagine that this man, or say this guy you're on a date with, imagine that he was sent backwards in time from your future soulmate to check in on you and see how you're progressing. So make sure how you treat everyone on a date was as if they were going to go home and write a note to your future soulmate and report on how you're doing. So you always bring your best game, because anyone you're dating is either the one or practice for the one. So you want to bring your A game. Olympic medalists don't wait till the day of the Olympics to bring their A game. Every day they get up at the gym and they bring their A game, they practice so that when they get to the Olympics, their A game is built into their muscle memory. So you want to bring your A game no matter who you're dating. You don't have to stay dating, but leave them better than you found them, and make sure that the email that they send at home to your future soulmate energetically is reporting on you at your best.
Is there a question that you wanted me to ask you today? If so, what is it?
Yeah, since we were talking about the I Love Being Sober podcast, what we didn't touch on, which is a parallel that I saw, is my work is mostly teaching my clients tools, technologies, mindsets, frameworks that allow them to breathe into and feel the feelings that they're having in their body, especially the difficult or painful ones, so that they don't try to squint and avoid feeling them. Because what an addiction is, one way of looking at an addiction, is leaning on something outside of yourself in order to avoid feeling the feeling that's in your body. So you can escape into something else, lean on a crutch, not have to cope. The opposite of an addiction or a neurosis or an OCD, the opposite of that is coping. So coping is the opposite of, so learning how to cope. What does that mean? Cope with these intense sensations of scary, sad, angry, overwhelm, learning how to cope with that. If you knew how to cope with that, you wouldn't need the liquor, you wouldn't need the cocaine, you wouldn't need all these things. So that's what I teach my clients. And they're not necessarily in a sober program, they're just in relationships. So I'm seeing that there's a parallel. When you're learning to become sober, what you're learning to do, one of the things is to rely on your internal technology and your supports, whether they're, your sponsor or structures or beliefs or practices of taking care of yourself and using meditation and breath and different technology to be with your sensations so that you're not always trying to run from them. Because where an addiction is where you run to self-soothe because you don't know how to feel them. So I just see a parallel there. And I just want everyone to get that whatever work you do in staying sober, that muscle that you're building is going to be right there on the forefront when you're ready to be in a relationship, because that's the muscle we're going to have to teach you. So you'll be ready to go because you will have conquered a habit with self-reliance. And that's what it takes to be in a adult, healthy, romantic relationship, is become self-reliant emotionally, because nobody's coming to do something or rescue or make you feel better. In romance, we think we're looking for a partner to rescue us and make us feel happy all the time, but they may do that for a few months. But when they actually just show up as a fallible, imperfect human, you realize, oh, I still have all these feelings. And if you don't learn how to cope with them, you're just going to be in conflict, or you'll run from this relationship to the next, and you'll never be, you'll never be safe.
Right. That's really good points. And it's being in a good place emotionally, spiritually, physically is, that's super important, and it's personal development. And I think we're in recovery from an addiction, mental illness, whatever it is, you're developing yourself personally, which is making you better for the next relationship.
Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
Yeah, anyone who's in early recovery, I just want to say, I admire you. I acknowledge the courage it takes. You are the unsung heroes. People climb Everest and they get an award and they get a paper and everyone goes, oh, but I think transcending a habit that you've had for months or years, that is ingrained and it's something that you've been leaning on, to pull off of leaning on it and to lean on yourself and to actually learn how to cope, is just as magnificent, if not more heroic, than climbing Everest. And so when I hear of someone who used to be reliant on something and is no longer, I just have a deep bow of appreciation and reverence at the courage, at the audacity, at the internal resolve and self-love that it takes to do that. I just want to say I acknowledge you, and I see it, and keep going.
Awesome. Those are awesome words. How can people find you or learn more about you and the services that you provide?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Lalla Bird, LALLABIRD, at Lalla Bird. And I do free videos every week and quotes and stuff. And then I have a website you can check out. There's lots of free resources there. AnnieLalla.com, ANNIELALLA.com. So double N in Annie and double L in Lalla. And reach out. I'd love to hear from you. I'm always doing programs and offering different things. So stay in touch and join my tribe.
Awesome. Thanks again so much. And thanks everyone for listening. Have a great rest of your day.